should be played at high volume, preferably in a residential area.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 91 of Top Rope Nation, the WrestleMania preview show. It's that time of year again. We're here with you for the best pro wrestling talk in the land. Top Rope Nation, I am Ryan Drosty of comicbook.com, joined here by Kyle Ross and Justin Joint. We're ready to get you primed for the biggest wrestling weekend of the year. WrestleMania 35, NXT TakeOver, ROH, New Japan, G1 Supercard. It's all happening this weekend in New York City. Kyle, you're pumped. What's going on out there in Cleveland?
I am jacked right now. Imagine not liking pro wrestling on a week like this, man.
I don't even want to imagine. What a boring life that would be.
Yeah.
Justin, how's it going out there?
Good, other than my mother-in-law keeps slamming a door, and I'm afraid she's going to wake my kid up.
Oh, that's
Kathy,
bad.
what are you doing up there, Kathy? Well, hopefully we don't hear any crying kids tonight, because we are going to go through this thing match by match. We're going to give you full previews for every bout on the WrestleMania card. This looks to be probably, when it all is said and done, the longest WrestleMania of all time.
Wish it was longer.
As far as the number of matches go, it's in the running for, depending on if they announce two more matches, which are rumored, it could be the longest match card of all time. So we're going to break it all down. I do want to welcome those of you that are joining us here on patreon.com/Top Rope Nation. I told you guys all about that on the show last week. Video live streaming every show that we record live to Patreon for $1 a month. So if you like the show, appreciate the support, throw us a $1 a month. We're spending hours bringing you guys excellent pro wrestling content. If you want to join us live, there you go. $1 a month, you get the show before the general public. This thing will be going out on Thursday morning to everyone out there across the globe, which, by the way, I was looking at our stats today, guys. Got to give a special shout out to the UK, making up over 10% of our downloads lately. I don't know if that's because of our buddy Liam O'Rourke, but the word is spreading about Top Rope Nation over in the UK. So thanks for joining us. And you can find us on iTunes. Of course, hit subscribe, leave us a 5-star rating. It helps us out. Stitcher, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, wherever podcasts are found. And check out our website, topropenation.com. You can find all of our contact information there. You can find bios of myself, Kyle, and Justin, which, by the way, guys, I think we need to update those. There's a little bit written, but I think we could do a little bit better. But there's an about the host section there on topropenation.com. So check it out. And of course, the full archive. So guys, I mean, WrestleMania, even if you aren't jacked about the card, once you get to the week of the show, it's hard for the excitement to not overtake you. I mean, this is, if you're a wrestling fan, you live for this weekend. There's something for everyone. We talked about all the shows outside of WWE WrestleMania. We were in New Orleans last year. There's indie shows happening all over the place in New York City this week. Either you wishing you had traveled to the Big Apple this year, Kyle? You got any friends there?
I've gone both ways. Like, yeah, obviously it would be cool to be there, but having been there the last 2 years, I was okay punting on it. And I was having a talk with my buddy Ryan, who was one of the guys I went with last year. And, you know, with the way these indie shows are spread out, like I don't know about you guys if you've taken any time, but like I actually spent like an hour the other day being like, all right, if I was going, which indie shows would I go to? And I noticed that like it would be like popping back and forth between like, you know, the Laboom nightclub, which is a little up, and like Jersey City. And I go to my buddy, I'm like, and he was said the same thing. He's like, man, I wish we were going. I was like, and I call my wife over and I'm like, wife, I need you here to tell Ryan why he should be glad he's not going, at least with me, because I can't stress how stressed I would be, like taking public transportation, going back and forth between, and like getting stuck and being like, this show's starting in 30 minutes and getting mad. I mean, you guys saw me last year when like my phone wasn't working for the ticket, for God's sake. I wanted to knock somebody out.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. One of the reasons, and also I think our most downloaded state in the union right now is New York. So shout out to New York.
Love New York. Can't say
Yeah.
enough nice things.
I will say, I mean, I have been in New York before. Stuff is really spread out, and traveling could be a bit of a nightmare out there to go to all those shows. So that kind of scared me off from going this year a little bit. Honestly, I don't really want to sit outside for WrestleMania in early April. So I'm considering Tampa
At least
next
in
year.
New York.
Yeah. I'm considering Tampa next year though. I mean, I think it's not like as much of a destination city as some of the places they could have had it, but it's warm weather in early April. So getting out of the Midwest where it's still pretty cold.
It was legit hot in Orlando 2 years ago.
I remember watching some of those indie shows, Kyle, and seeing you pop up on my screen. I think might have been a Progress show. First time I saw
it was a Progress.
No, it was like one of the first shows you got to.
It was the Evolve show. It was during,
it was Evolve.
It was during Drew McIntyre, Matt Riddle. Wow,
that's right.
How far have they come in the last 2 years?
Yeah, no kidding. Justin, do you wish you were in New York right now, or are you satisfied watching this year from your couch?
I'm satisfied watching from my couch this year. As you pointed out, I don't really want to. I'm a wuss, and I don't want to sit outside in cold weather for 10 hours.
What's the weather looking like there?
Last I looked, it was cloudy with like a 20% chance of rain, but that was a couple days ago. I'm sure it's changed by now. I think low 50s at night was the temperature. They got the ring that warms up, so the talent will be fine. It's just a matter of what's going to happen for the crowd.
Yeah, they've done this before, and it worked out okay. I don't there weren't any complaints about the weather back in 2013. Were there for 29?
No, I think it was fairly warm. Like I remember hearing about the heated ring that they had that time, and I don't recall anything. I mean, obviously the nightmare scenario is they get a blizzard or something, which is possible this time of the year still in New York, although not very likely.
Supposed to be 63 and clear on Sunday in East Rutherford, New Jersey.
Is that 63 like high for the day, or is that at night what the temperature is going to be? You see the hourly?
Good Lord, what is this here? Freaking Weather Channel? I don't know. I just got the 7-day thing, man. I'm sure it's the high for the day.
Yeah. Okay.
But when it starts, it'll be. I mean, yeah, I could get a little chilly by, main event time.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely could be a lot worse. So it's not looking too bad for those of you that are traveling out to New York. Maybe you guys are listening to us on your flight out to New York City. We hope you guys have a great time. Maybe next year, some of our crew will be down in Tampa. You can buy us a beer. But until then, guys, if you saw us in a bar and you recognize us here from youtube.com/Top Rope Nation, would you buy Kyle Ross a beer? Would you buy Justin Joyne a beer? Ryan Drossi, would you buy me a beer? Well, if you would, $1 a month on patreon.com/Top Rope Nation. That is a hell of a deal. A $1 beer. There you go. The ultimate salesman.
Incredible way to circle around to that plug, man. That was...
That's why they have me doing this hosting gig, you guys. No, seriously, though, $1 a month. Show us you like the show. We'd love to have you join us for these live podcasts every week before it goes out to the general public. Before I edit it on GarageBand and add all the slick effects, you can see us in rare form. You can see us off air as we were just discussing how we're gonna break down this show. So with that said, I think we'll just start right from the top.
Well, hold on. I have a lot to say.
Okay, before we get to the card.
Yeah,
Kyle taking some notes.
Oh, I was thinking about this show. It was last week. I think I actually texted you guys. It was the middle of last week. I started thinking about some of the narratives that have developed about this show, and a lot of it stemmed from me discussing with my buddy Chad, who was also at Mania with me the last 2 years, and he really likes to peddle some of these Meltzer and Alvarez and Keller theories to me in the DMs, and it got me to thinking about kind of framing this WrestleMania as a whole. And I think there's some interesting things. One, I want to look at this narrative of the lack of long-term booking. Okay, that seems to be like something that you hear a lot, you read a lot online, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are we sure that's true? Because as we think about this and we look at these matches we're going to go through, okay, women's three-way. The plans for that were clearly set in motion back around Survivor Series, which was November. Rollins-Lesnar is about as traditional as a Mania build gets, with Rollins winning the Rumble and challenging the champion. Triple H Batista goes back to SmackDown 1000 in the fall. Angle Corbin, I know there's a lot of hand-wringing about it, but quite frankly, that goes back well into last year with the GM storyline. And, even something like Miz and Shane, that goes back to the best in the world in Saudi Arabia and has actually, compared to some of the other things, and I'll get into this in a moment, has actually been booked pretty cohesively for a mid-card program. And even Brian Kofi, which was thrown together, on a whim after Elimination Chamber, they got that set up pretty much as quick as possible, given the change. So this lack of long-term booking, is it true? Or is it, not to pick on anybody, but, it's pretty clear that Meltzer is not clued in at all on the plans? And is it like kind of him not knowing, and then his listener and, some of his less sharp readers who are like spoon-fed stuff, just kind of like playing, oh, well, they don't know what's going on, so there's no long-term booking here. I'll get to some of the particulars because it does speak to something, but I don't know if it's fair to say that this show hasn't had long-term booking when half the match, well, I guess maybe a third that I just went through, kind of do, they go back months, which you could, the Attitude Era Manias, which everyone wants to go back to, you couldn't say that. Mania 17, they threw together half the card 3 weeks before the show.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't think, I haven't heard any of these complaints because I'm not really cued into the Wrestling Observer world. But also, like, how many matches do you need long-term booking in?
That's also
like, almost all the Manias previous to the Attitude Era, you'd have maybe 2 matches that were long-term. Otherwise, they've always just been the majority of them thrown together.
Yeah, that is a great point. Like, you talk about some of the longer Manias in terms of match cards. I think you brought this up, Justin, in the text thread, and Ryan just referenced at the top of the show, like what, the shows that have had the most matches. 5 through 7, I know all had 14, but like 75% of them had no program. Mm-hmm. It was just like Ron Garvin will wrestle Dino Bravo at the biggest show of the year.
Yeah.
And, they would go like 4 minutes and it would be over. So, obviously it's a different time, but, so here's my interesting thing though with this show. Okay. So people have, there's been a lot of hand wringing about the booking of the various programs. Okay. And I do think any issues are reflective of 2 things. One, there's a lot of TV. Okay. 5 first run hours, with the brands, you've got to try to make this stuff as interesting as possible for 5 hours a week. That's hard. And there's a lot of opinions in the room now. It's not like the good old days that Justin just referenced, where it's just Vince, Bruce, and Pat. Like I think like when you see some of these, like the whole thing with Charlotte winning the title kind of late in the game, Meltzer was reporting, well, that had been discussed for a while. And so to me, I think when you see some of these things and maybe it's not linear booking all the way through, there's some misdirection week to week. I think that's a reflection of, there's a lot of ideas being thrown out of a lot of people, and maybe the ultimate decision maker, that being Vince, doesn't take them right away, but then goes back to it weeks after. I think we've seen a lot of that. I'll point that out when we go through these individual matches. But the biggest question, and this is really important where I want to hear you guys back, is this question of who versus how, I think is the most interesting thing when breaking down the booking of this show. What do I mean by that? I think it's pretty rich how much complaining I hear from some corners when this show features not 1, but 2 fan-willed baby faces, those being Kofi Kingston and Becky Lynch, at the top of the show that WWE changed plans for. Mm-hmm. Like, they were not originally supposed to be in these positions. WWE, who was criticized for not listening to the fans, listened and made the necessary changes and put them in. Even Meltzer noted that in the latest Observer. And that got me to thinking, because they're still complaining despite that. Is it no longer enough that WWE pushes who some fans want? They now must be pushed how those fans want. For example, okay, Becky Lynch, all right, that's great. She's in a different era. That's great. Becky Lynch is going to win the title, right? We all think that's going to happen. Maybe you guys don't. I don't know. We'll get to that. But This three-way's crap. She needs to be beating Ronda Rousey one-on-one, and it needs to be done like this. And if it's not done like this, then it's crap, even if it's the person that we want getting put over. And I think that is the most fascinating thing in dissecting fan reaction to the build of this show, WrestleMania 35. Your thoughts?
So I think some of that is like, it's okay like to make that criticism. It's when it's coming from a place of emotion instead of logic. It's like a lot of people can say, it's like, yeah, maybe it would have made more sense just to have Becky versus Ronda. But to get like pissed off about it when, hey, it's still good stuff with Charlotte.
And that brings me to Justin Joy, and I love you with all my heart and soul because you brought me to my next bullet point. How has the WWE chosen to get their heat for this show? Let's go back to a quote that I had a few weeks ago. Our good friend Liam O'Rourke, you referenced him. He put it on Twitter. I love Liam too with all my heart and soul. I love you too, Ryan, by the way. I really do.
Thank you. Appreciate the pity, love.
Okay. So how's the WWE chosen to get their heat? By manipulating the largest part of its current audience. Those who think they're smart, but they're really not. These people who have it convinced, even though there is all evidence to the contrary, that WWE is all in on Becky Lynch. They're all in on Kofi Kingston for the show. Oh, they're going to screw them. Oh, they're not going to do it right. And they're choosing to play off people who think they know the inner workings of this business. And those people, kind of like Justin just mentioned, are the ones getting most worked up. Like, I almost feel like Vince McMahon coming out and saying, Charlotte Flair is now in the main event, is the 2019 version of Nikolai Volkov singing the Russian national anthem. Where it gets the rubes all fired up for the silliest reasons.
Mm-hmm. My God, I can practically see the smoke coming off of that microphone. Kyle Ross, you're on fire tonight. I love it. You hit on some stuff I wanted to talk about too, because that is, you mentioned fan-willed baby faces in these matches. And I do think that this show in particular is the ultimate pushback against the narrative that WWE never listens to their fans anymore. Because yes, Becky Lynch, Kofi got themselves involved in those main event matches, undoubtedly because of the fans. And there's been instances over the years too at WrestleMania where it's clear that last year, right? Reigns didn't go over at the Superdome.
Yeah, which that wasn't for the bad. I think I don't think that was for the betterment of the company.
I don't
think
either.
We all agree.
But that Reigns was having a lot of pushback, and I think that you could say that was listening to the fans. I mean, they held off on Reigns numerous times. Vince made the call at the last second.
Yeah.
Because of the fans.
But sometimes it's worked, right? Like, I mean, one of the most, Daniel Bryan, I think, for the modern times is certainly the best example. WrestleMania 30. I think Brett was a pretty similar thing at WrestleMania 10. People forget about that. That Vince kind of did the ultimate live focus group at Rumble 94 with Brett and Luger. Mm-hmm. He was kind of like vacillating. All right, which one of these guys is taking the title from Yoko? And he has them tie in the Rumble and listens to the fan reaction. And, it was pretty clear that more fans wanted Brett than Luger in that top position. And so we went with that.
Yeah, I think you can make an argument for the long-term booking, and even adding Charlotte to the match. They were dropping hints a year ago that Charlotte and Ronda was going to be the match. That's long-term booking too. So,
and we'll get to this. Again, I was going to kind of cite some specific stuff when we go through the individual matches. With this being this winner-take-all scenario, okay, yes, again, like Justin said, you can make the case if you wanted to do a winner-take-all scenario. You could have just had Becky come in as a SmackDown champ. You could have just had Ronda come in as the Raw champ. Again, there would have been logistical issues with that. You had to work through. What do you do with the Rumble then? Right? Mm-hmm. But I think, this being the winner-take-all scenario, Charlotte's spot is now totally justified in the match.
Yeah. We talked about that last week where if it's winner-take-all, we were all in on that. If they weren't going to do that, we weren't maybe so much in on the title switch. Now I think it makes perfect sense, and it's great. Mm-hmm. I think that's the best way to go about it. So,
and by the way, we will not bring up the fan-willed babyface at WrestleMania 20 because that makes us all look bad.
That's true.
That was bad. I'm sorry, Vince. Don't ever listen to us again.
Oh man, Stamford, Connecticut. We got some downloads coming from there. I've seen it on the map, so I don't know who that is, but Stamford.
Oh,
thanks for playing us at Titan Towers while it's still the headquarters of the WWE. I did ask on our Twitter page, by the way, at Top Rope Nation tonight. I want to give a shout out to our listeners because, as always, we love all of you with all of our hearts and souls. What are you most looking forward to for WrestleMania weekend? Got some good responses. I said I'd read some of them on the air. We have ABH Mania, who said hands down Kofi versus Bryan. Kofi has worked his ass off for 11 years to get to this point. Let's see. One guy, Benny, said the 2 battle royals because I can go use the restroom. Benny's going to be doing a lot of drinking this weekend. Donnie, I want to see who interrupts Elias. Could be John Cena, possibly. We'll see what happens.
Who again, the fans, again, they love all of a sudden they just want John Cena up and down the card. The same people who booed this guy mercilessly 10 years ago. Well, all of a sudden, John Cena needs to be in every match on WrestleMania now.
Yeah.
Fans.
Yep. How about Ryan Ritchie here? He says, the main event, I cannot wait to see the Becky fans lose their collective minds when Ronda Rousey becomes the undisputed WWE Women's Champion.
Jesus. All right. So everything I said, and I think we're saying, comes with a big caveat. WWE needs to pull the trigger and make this, I think, a babyface heavy card, at least in the key matches. Would we not all agree about that?
Yeah, totally.
Again, Justin, you had the great question a month or so ago, maybe even longer, with the 3 key ones, Seth, Kofi, and Becky. Are they really going to put all 3 over? I think they should, but, we'll get into, of course, later in the program, whether they will or not. I'm kind of interested to hear your guys' thoughts on those 3 matches. I think, elsewhere it's not as important, but those 3 matches, I actually think it's pretty important to have all 3 go over.
Yeah, I'd agree. Our guy Joe chimed in here. Joe Dorian said, holy shit, I cannot wait for Brian Kingston. Chris Croninger says, my daughter and I have seen some great women's wrestling the past year, mostly at our local indie promotion. It seems like a great way to end the wrestling year, winner take all. So the main event again. Let's see what else. Daniel, Becky winning. Let's see. Terrence says, I love wrestling, so I'm hoping for a good show. He says it's the worst Mania build in 10 years, but if he had to pick one, I guess Styles versus Orton, if it gets the time it needs. Could be a good match. Could be a really good match.
Loved the promo Tuesday night.
Yeah, I did too.
They've had 2 that are good. I mean, so that drug test reference, like I was kind of thinking in the back of my mind earlier, I'm like, that'd be funny if Styles referenced that. And then he did, and my jaw dropped.
It was the only thing that would have made me just completely lose my shit is if Orton had made like some kind of flat earth reference. Like, AJ, when you were wrestling around the world for the indies, around the world or something like that. Now that would have been great. It
would have been great if you would have pulled out Amy Weber's handbag too.
Oh my God. Yes. Love it. Couple more of these from the fans. And actually, we should address the Go Home TV too, quick, what we thought of that this week. Amon, a guy, Amon over in the UK, said Rollins Brock will deliver really well in the ring like Brock usually does with similar opponents. I like that take. I think it'll probably be a pretty damn good match. And let's see, any others to read off. Last draft standing. He says, I'll have to say Kofi and Bryan, considering it wasn't even supposed to happen and the story behind it all along with Kofi paying so many dues to WWE. I want to see if Kofi actually wins and what a Kofi championship reign will be like. All right. There you have it. There's the listeners of Top Rope Nation. Oh, I got to throw out Derek Chappelle. Missed this one. Dream Riddle, NXT TakeOver.
That's the most Derek answer of all time.
Love you, Derek.
So I do too.
And one more. Arnez, who's one of Derek's buddies. I think we met him at the Progress show last year down in New Orleans. Says Walter Dunn, winner take all triple threat, and Brian Kofi. So all solid choices there. Real quick, guys, before we get to the card, what did you think of the Go Home TV this week between Raw and SmackDown? We mentioned the AJ Orton segment. Kyle, what did you think of the rest on either show? We don't have to break down the whole thing, but just some highlights that stood out.
Yeah, I think for all the key matches, the stuff was really good. Obviously, that crazy women's segment was something you'll remember, which, how many segments 3, 4, 5 weeks later do we remember on Raw or SmackDown? Not that many. I think we'll remember that one for a long time.
I know somebody who didn't like it.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
That's this guy.
Oh, no.
It's not even that I didn't hate it. I just, I'm watching it and it's just like, wow, there's a lot of kicking going on. I think like
They were
I don't know.
handcuffed.
I just heard yakety sax the entire, like once it like was going on for like 5-10. Hold on. And then like just two things that were kind of ridiculous to me is, okay, two people are fighting, so naturally the cops are going to put them in the same back seat.
Yeah, that was bizarre.
And then they're going to have a little toddler kick fight. And then somehow Ronda Rousey puts the car in gear and smashes it into another car when she's in the back seat with her hands cuffed behind her back.
Okay, so I think the ridiculousness of it all made it.
I agree. I think like pro wrestling, man. It's crazy. It's hilarious. It's entertaining.
Justin, you are right in thinking there were a few times that, like, it's funny you mentioned yakety sax, because I did, like, when I watched it back one time, I was like, okay, I could see how somebody would like play yakety sax. But like, I actually thought, and it was like, I thought the most preposterous moment of the whole segment when they loaded them in both Becky and Ronda in the back of the car, and then they looked at each other with that like ridiculous look, and they're like, "It's go time!" Like, I thought that was like incredible. So,
yeah, I just watched it for what it was. It was campy, it was goofy, but it was great.
Is Charlotte Flair, by the way, the greatest striker this industry has seen since Kenta Kobashi? I mean, she hit that knee she hit on Ronda. That was like legitimately awesome. But like, she had like some great shots, man. I mean, Charlotte Flair, I mean, she's got it back. But Batista's promo, I think, was tremendous too.
Oh yeah, I love that too.
Just the kicking to the video and kiss my ass, Hunter. I mean, that's good. AJ and Orton we hit on. The Daniel Bryan, Kofi Kingston promo that ended SmackDown. I was in tears at how great this was. Both guys, I mean, just hit it out of the park with the promo and the emotion. And I mean, is Kofi the most over babyface going into this show?
Yes, 100%. Yes.
Yeah, I think he might be. And then,
and I don't think Daniel Bryan's ever been better than what he's doing right now.
The
you could make that argument, I think. Yeah.
The irony of him arguing against his former self, character-wise, is incredible stuff. Like how he's like looking across the table and he's like, "You're me 4 years ago or 5 years ago." And I love how Kofi was like, "No, man, no, I'm not. You won your title, 2 years in, man. I've been waiting." Like, I thought that was great. Great back and forth. It very much felt like, instead of, "Hey, you do your line, I do my line," like some WWE promos have that feel, it felt very authentic the whole way through. And if I had told you at this time last year, Daniel Bryan on the Go Home SmackDown for next year's Mania would be getting asshole chants, I mean, who would have believed that? And it's not Pavlov's dogs either. I mean, the crowd legitimately was into not liking Daniel Bryan, which means he's doing his job.
Yeah. Justin, let me ask you, how much would you mark out if at WrestleMania, Kofi Kingston came out to his old Jamaican theme song?
Ooh, no, I would be very disappointed.
Really? I would love it. I thought that was a great theme song back in the day, but no, there's no chance it's going to happen.
Yeah. We need to give Justin a little bit of credit. I remember months ago, he floated the idea of, I want to see Kofi Kingston get that title run. And I was like, really? I mean, it seems nice, but I don't really think it's in the cards. And my God, he's gotten this opportunity and he has hit the ball right out of the fucking park, man.
Yeah, I couldn't have seen it either. You go back 3 or 4 months and I never could have anticipated, and he's definitely done an awesome job.
We talk about WrestleMania. Okay, part of the reason I love this week is you think about the history of WrestleMania, right? And how many times when you look through the history of this show, this company, is some of the best stuff. It just it wasn't planned out. It just happens, Steve Austin, that whole thing with Bret Hart doesn't happen if Shawn Michaels doesn't lose a smile. And, they have to rework the entire card. Mustafa Ali gets hurt. Okay, well, I guess we'll just give the spot to Kofi. Here we are 2 months late, a little less than 2 months later. And Kofi Kingston, as we just said, may very well be the most over babyface going into
that was another instance of WWE pivoting due to the fans, because Kofi was going to get the shot at Fastlane, and then they flipped it around.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there you go. I mean, they put him right into that WrestleMania slot, which is no easy feat.
Yeah, and again, when we get to that match, I'll go through this more. But okay, when you talk about maybe the booking being uneven and that whole scenario with Fastlane, how he was put in the match, and then they're like, okay, no, he's going to get the Mania match. The booking is messy. There's no denying about that. But they got it right. Like, the idea that Kevin Owens would be even close to being as over as Kofi is right now, I think is laughable. And that's not even that's not even intended to be a pot shot at Kevin Owens. I just don't think he had the story. That people have really, as much as I kind of roll my eyes sometimes at the whole "you deserve it" thing, this particular instance of it has worked tremendously.
Yeah. The only other thing from Go Home TV this week I'd mention is I really liked the tag title match on Raw with Ricochet and Aleister Black taking on the Revival. And honestly, my only disappointment this week was kind of that those two were thrown into the Fatal 4-Way for the SmackDown tag titles, because I actually would have liked to have seen them have another match with the Revival.
Yeah, like I thought that was really weird. You have the Hardys sitting there that you could have inserted to have your Fatal 4-Way, and then have Aleister Black and Ricochet on Raw. But I guess they just don't want any more matches.
Well, hey, and that's true. Well, because it's a complaint. So I mean, that people all the matches, but I think it makes sense, because do we want Aleister Black and Ricochet to be tag team champions in WWE? Like, I think Gargano and Ciampa, when they come up to the main roster, they actually need to be a tag team at first. But Aleister Black and Ricochet, can't those guys stand on their own as characters? Like, to me, like when they do this shakeup, like, I think they should be kind of sent to opposite brands.
They definitely can stand on their own, but I don't think it would hurt them at all. Have a short tag run.
It wouldn't. But the thing is, I think maybe they don't want to beat the Revival. They don't like. I think it's like we talked about Fastlane with Black and Ricochet, because they were in it was a multi-person tag match, a match show for the Raw belts, right? Like Black and Ricochet, they can be on the card competing for a title, but they don't have, because you don't want to beat them either, right? Like, obviously, with Black and Ricochet, if they worked Revival in a straight up tag, logically, there's two options. One, you put the titles on them. Two, you beat them for the first time. You don't want to beat them right now. And I don't know if you want to put the titles on them either. So the whole being in a 4-way, they're not involved in the fall. They're on the card. And that's that.
Yeah. Well, it's a rumored match at this point, although it looks like it's going to be announced. It's probably been announced by the time you're listening to this, but you're probably going to get Ryder and Hawkins taking on the Revival for the Raw tag titles.
Okay. Is Kurt Hawkins snapping that losing streak a good storyline? That's an honest question.
Maybe, I don't know if it's really a storyline. It might just be a nice little pop for WrestleMania, and that'd be probably the time to do it.
Okay, no, I don't mean for WrestleMania. I mean in general. Like, isn't it like something that, like, if they chose to build it up? Like, I'm not saying as it currently is constituted right now, but I'm saying if you rolled with it and really drew sympathy for the guy, is that not a good storyline?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's actually got like a good kind of cult following right now due to his podcast with Ryder. So I think it's working. So they're going to get the hometown, the home metro area pop too at this show. So
now, that being said, I don't think because would this be a pre-show match? Do we think?
Yeah,
probably. I think they announced that the two battle royals are on the
and the cruiserweight match. So maybe it isn't, but still, I don't know if now is the right time to do it. Actually break that streak, but eventually it was. I always thought like they would do it like in the fall against Corbin. I thought they had kind of like on 1 week sort of teased that, but it went nowhere. Pulling this angle out of mothballs from years past. Remember like when Barry Horowitz won? Like he finally won a match in 95. And a lot of people were like, there were some people salty about it because they did it at the expense of Chris Candido. But like people forget, I know that was kind of a dog time period for a lot of people. That storyline worked. Barry Horowitz, it was a short window, got over as a result of that. And there's no reason thinking Kurt Hawkins can't eventually do the same. I'm not sure, though, if a tag match potentially on the pre-show or just buried on the Mania card with no build is the right time to do it. Plus, I want to see the Revival stay tag team champions.
Yeah, I'd say like on a show where there's going to be a lot of title switches, it would look like going in that would seem like titles would stay on the Revival. But
Because I think it could get over. I legitimately think if you did it at the right time, it would be a kind of a big cult deal if Kurt Hawkins wins a match.
Yep. So that's a rumored match. John Cena having a match is, well, I guess more than rumored. The reports are he has signed on for a match. We just don't know what it's going to be yet. So we can bring him up when we go through these matches where we think possibly he could be inserted into the card.
Excuse me, teacher.
Yes.
I believe one of the students is raising his hand.
Yeah.
Yes, Kyle.
Yeah.
Justin. Okay.
Yeah. Real quick before we get into the card, two things I wanted to point out from Raw and SmackDown. The Finn Balor demon thing I thought was corny as shit. And I don't know how I feel about it yet, but they added some sound effects to Aleister Black's entrance.
Yeah. I thought it was okay, but it kind of, really surprised me when I heard it because I don't think it needs anything else. But,
we said the same thing about
Seth Rollins.
Yeah, we said this and we're like, what is that silly ass line?
Yeah, but I mean, like that was when there was like a silent part in his, well, at first, didn't they have it like at the part where his theme would start up and then it would be silent and then it really kicks in and that's where they had it. Now they just start off with the burn it down.
Yes.
But it was inserted into a part where there's like just dead silence in his theme, so it made sense. I don't know about this one. I mean, it's already kicked in at that point, kind of like there's music playing and stuff. You see him visually coming up on the screen. It's kind of like that chain noise,
like kind of a drawbridge kind of noise.
I guess I could give it. I don't really care either way. I don't know. I don't know that it adds much to it. I don't know that it takes anything away. It definitely doesn't take anything away. So
yeah, I just wanted to point it out.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, here we go. Let's start it off with the Battle Royal matches. So this is WrestleMania 35 this Sunday, the award-winning WWE Network, as Kyle Ross would say.
You know what awards it's won, right?
I do not.
The best thing ever invented award.
The puts Kyle to sleep every night award.
Yeah.
MetLife Stadium, New Jersey.
I have been watching those Go Home Raws, by the way. I'm up to 2,000.
I know you have. That's actually a pretty good project.
Yeah. You know which ones surprised me? That like I enjoyed and I did not anticipate enjoying?
96?
That was okay, but 99. You know, like that's become like the bastard year that like no one likes because like Russo's fingerprints are all over the product. Whew, was that a hot crowd?
Yeah, I mean, TV was good back then. It's just the Mania gets panned because everything else was very good that year as far as television goes, at least during that period. During that period, at least early 99, and it didn't live up to expectations.
Well, the Mania, actually, I mean, this is getting way off on a tangent, but that Mania, outside of having the correct main event in Austin Rock, which obviously drew a lot of eyes, the rest of the show just kind of felt like Raw, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I mean, it was a really predictable Mania. Austin Rock was the right move. It was super predictable at the time, though. Everyone knew it was going to happen. So, but that's not always a bad thing, I guess.
Nope.
All right. Try this one more time. Here we go. We're going to start off with the actual matches now. So this Sunday, April 7th at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey, we've got the Women's Battle Royal. Start off with that one. It's on the kickoff show. Announced so far: Asuka, Carmella, Naomi, Dana Brooke, Mickie James, Ruby Riott, and the entire Riott Squad. Lana, Mandy Rose, Sonya Deville, Zelina Vega, and Nikki Cross. So I read and heard that before they made the plan to switch the title off of Asuka, Mandy Rose was the plan. I think Meltzer had written that at one point Asuka versus Mandy versus Sonya was the plan, but I think in the end, Mandy versus Asuka was likely the plan. So because of that, I'm going to pick Mandy Rose here. She's the hometown girl in this match, and she seems like kind of the star in waiting on SmackDown Live. So I'm going to go with Mandy. Let me flip it to Kyle.
I think with some of this angst and quite frankly, foolish angst led by Brian Alvarez over Asuka and what's happened to her, I think she's going to win. I think it's going to be throw Asuka a bone in this battle royal. Eve Torres rumored to be a part of this as well. I had just read as a mystery entrant. Don't obviously think she would win, but Asuka, I think just kind of, doesn't she have a potentially built-in rematch for all this? Again, hand-wringing that's going on with Asuka. She beat Becky at the Rumble. Don't you think they might come back to that as Asuka's maybe one of Becky's potentially first challengers? So Asuka's fine.
Mm-hmm.
I think she just slotted where she is. The three of us brought this up last year. When she lost to Charlotte clean in New Orleans, that told you all you needed to know. And people were looking at us like we had tinfoil hats when we said that did damage. People were, well, that was a great match. What are you talking about?
Yeah, she was digging out of that hole all year.
And she kind of, I do kind of feel some empathy, but, if she wins the Battle Royal, it's really no worse than winning a clearly secondary title match.
Yeah, true. Justin, who you got?
I'm going to go with Asuka. I think, there's a chance it could being on the kickoff, it could be one of the first shows. So you start off with a baby face. The only ones I could see winning outside of her is probably Mandy Rose or else Lacey Evans.
Yeah, I consider that too. She hasn't been announced, but like maybe she comes in. I know they want to give her a push, but by the way, there was a lot of talk, Meltzer, it could be Asuka versus Lacey Evans as that SmackDown title match. I think it's a good move holding off a new character post Mania. I really do.
Yeah.
Kind of start them fresh.
Yeah. All right, and then the men's Rumble, the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, a much longer list of competitors. I think they got like 28 people announced for this at this point. So I'm not going to read them all off. We know the 2 stars from SNL Weekend Update are going to be on there. Of course, Braun Strowman's in the match, and when you look at the roster of everyone in this match, Braun is by far the biggest star in the match. So looking down, I guess I would have to lean towards Braun winning here, which I don't know. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with Braun. Let me flip it to Justin first this time.
Yeah, I think it's definitely got to be Braun. They seem to have been kind of building up Apollo Crews a little bit, but I just don't see. I mean, are you gonna have the SNL guys eliminate Braun? Otherwise, I just don't. I don't see it happening.
Okay, who is going to be the guy who Colin Jost tosses out that we get all the dirty diapers about online? I can't believe. Can you imagine if he tosses Andrade?
Ooh, Tyler Breeze.
Yeah, Tyler Breeze came to mind.
Can you imagine all the pit? Oh, that guy didn't deserve that. He gets that. Look, this match is clearly building towards one thing. Strowman and the SNL guys, whether or not that comes in the middle of the match and Braun chucks him, and then it kind of, maybe everyone then teams up on Braun, gets rid of him, and it turns into a battle royal, or they save Braun versus the SNL guys to the end and Braun just wins. I think those are the only 2 plausible scenarios. Braun winning seems very obvious, but it also seems like the right call.
Andre Battle Royal's in desperate need of a big star like Braun to win it.
Yeah. And Andre won a Battle Royal with football points. By the way, when did we get to the point in wrestling? You are historical, Ryan, so I'll throw this to you first. When there was such angst against celebrity participation. Like, that's been such a big thing with Mania throughout its history. When did that start, when it was like, oh, these fucking celebrities?
I think WWE pushed back against it in the early 2000s. They said, it might have even been Vince. He said something like, well, we don't need the celebrities anymore because our superstars are the celebrities now.
I remember that. Yeah.
So maybe
was it
at that point, the narrative changed it? I don't know. Because everyone always popped for the celebrities before that. And so.
Yeah. People can say whatever they want. Mr. T was the most important person at WrestleMania 1.
Yeah, him and Cyndi Lauper, obviously.
Yeah, obviously Hulk Hogan is the bit, but like, does Hulk Hogan become the biggest star of all time? If not for being involved in that match and getting the rub from Mr. T.
Yeah,
and not all celebrities have worked, but there have been some key ones.
Yeah, I'd say maybe in the early 2000s there's some pushback. I don't know, but yeah.
Even Tyson, I guess, maybe was the first. Remember, the fans booed him pretty hard, but I think they kind of played into that too. They and Mike Tyson,
he was kind of a heel figure at that point, coming off the Holyfield fights. Yeah,
and he's some other things too, allegedly, but
yeah.
But, I just think about it with this, it's kind of embarrassing sometimes how wrestling fans react to celebrities, because I just think about so this is early in the show. My wife will probably be watching at this point before checking out, and she'll be intrigued by this because she watches SNL.
Yeah, I think it's the quality of the celebrities though too, because the crowd popped for Gronk when he was at Mania.
That's true. Yeah,
but here you got the 2 SNL guys, and people are like, what is this? It's very dependent on the types of figures. They have.
And I'm not saying these guys should be in any feature position, but I think this is fine.
Yeah.
For a battle royal.
Yeah. So then we go ahead.
No Bill Fralick at WrestleMania 2, though. Now that was a guy who knew what he was doing.
The fridge.
Oh, yes.
All right. Buddy Murphy defending against Tony Nese, the cruiserweight title. I have not watched 205 Live, and I don't know how long. Which of you has watched 205 Live recently? Either of you? Justin's shaking his head no.
Nope.
We all know Buddy Murphy's had this title forever. Is Tony Nese actually the one to take it from him?
It's been a couple weeks for me. I'm worried about the future of 205 Live.
Well, there's reports out that that could be moving to FS1 as part of the Fox deal. That came out the other day that they're already taping 3 hours of TV, and with Fox losing UFC, they might want even more, WWE content out there. So there's been rumors that they would have on Fox broadcast SmackDown for 2 hours, flip over to FS1, and I guess that would be the 205 Live show. I can't imagine them splitting a third hour of SmackDown to a different network, so I would assume it'd be 205 Live.
Or something else that they come up with. I don't know. I don't know what that would be, but Tony, look, I feel we say this a lot when we break down these cruiserweight matches at the pay-per-views. Buddy Murphy's great in the championship role, and such contender is just not the guy to beat him, and Tony Nese follows that pattern. God bless Tony Nese. He's trying. I think he's pretty solid, but he's not the guy to beat Buddy Murphy.
Yeah, I would agree. All right, Justin?
Yeah, Buddy Murphy.
Okay. So let's go into the SmackDown tag title match. We talked about this a few minutes ago. Usos recently re-signing to WWE, according to PW Insider. So any hopes those of you had for them jumping to AEW, out the window. They're still with WWE, defending their tag titles against Aleister Black and Ricochet, The Bar, and Nakamura and Rusev. I think on this one, I got to go with the Usos retaining. What do you think, Justin?
I don't want to fucking agree on everything, but that's kind of where my head was at. I think The Bar has the worst chance. Maybe if they want to actually make something out of this Rusev Nakamura team, you put the belts on them and go with it. But I think you reward the Usos for signing pen to paper.
Mr. Ross?
Yeah, let's make it 3 for 3 with the Usos. They made a big deal last year about how they had never been on the main card. Remember that for Mania? Mm-hmm. And then it was kind of like a nothing match and they didn't win. I think this is the Usos getting a big win on the main card. I just... Black and Ricochet, I think, have the strongest argument because they're new and they've been presented well. But again, I just don't think... I think they're strong enough moving forward to stand on their own as singles. I think they've been presented as a tag team so far just due to some synergy with NXT, which isn't a terrible idea. And for Justin's idea, Usos and the Hardys, I'm totally with them that I love the story there, especially they could tell who's the greatest tag team of all time. They could tell that story, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's fair. That's something that I think if you let it breathe outside of WrestleMania, because again, I feel we've said this 3 or 4 times already on the show, some of these lower card matches just don't have room to breathe on this card. And, Usos Hardys, I think, could be a big deal, and you just wouldn't want it to get lost in the shuffle. And there is the question, too, with the Hardys, how much do they have left to give in the tank? I know we're going to be talking about that with Kurt Angle, but, maybe the Hardys, I don't know. I mean, should we temper our expectations for them moving forward?
Well, I like the story. I wouldn't mind seeing that.
Oh, I love the story. I love the story. I'm just saying, and if there are people who think they could, the two teams could have this blow away ladder match and it's the early aughts all over again, I'm not sure if that's fair.
Yeah, not happening probably. I know Justin was disappointed we're not getting a ladder match on this card, unfortunately.
Well, Money in the Bank got moved up, right? It's happening earlier. I think it's happening in May or something.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Am I right about that? Money in the Bank 20.
I'm not sure on that, actually.
Money in the Bank 2019 in Hartford, home of WrestleMania 11.
Oh, yeah. WrestleMania 11, one of the great WrestleMania logos, one of the worst WrestleMania shows, I got to say.
Yeah, I think other than 9, it's the worst. Yes, it will be happening in Hartford on May 19th.
Okay. All right, so let's move this along to, well, I guess next on my list here is the IC title match. So this is right up Mr. Joint's alley. We've got the Demon returning against Bobby Lashley for the IC title. Justin, who you got here?
I think it needs to be Finn in a squash.
Yeah. Got the demon. He can't lose. Finally bringing out the demon, right, Kyle?
Yeah.
No, I don't think, maybe there will be a time when the demon loses, but it sure isn't now on this card again. With maybe time to some being an issue. I think doing the demon here, pivoting off what Justin said, gives this a reason to be short. I think this is a match, maybe, I guess, because it's Lashley, would not benefit from length.
This match there's only one reason for it, and that's the demon entrance.
Yes. And that's fine, to be honest with you. Even for Finn Balor, fine.
100%, 100%.
Yeah, they don't all have to be blowaway matches. Sometimes it's just about getting over and looking good. And I think this is, if Finn wins pretty definitively here as the demon, I think that's as good as anything for him.
All right, so here's where it gets interesting with, we can probably start bringing up John Cena's name. So you got the U.S. title match, Samoa Joe defending against Rey Mysterio. Mysterio sounds legit hurt on Monday night.
Was. That's what, from all accounts, it's a legit injury. I mean, multiple people are reporting it's legit.
So we've got John Cena hanging out there that he has signed on for a match. Now, the reports were out there that John Cena had signed on for a match before that injury.
Yeah.
I suppose they could pivot for whatever they have planned for him. We know originally Joe Cena was talked about for Mania. So if Ray can't go, if he absolutely can't go, this could be a spot where you would, sub in John Cena. We've talked about before how Cena could get involved in the Elias segment. That seems very likely. They've got a history. And, it's possible John Cena could get involved in that Angle Corbin situation. So I think we've got 3 places on the card where I could see John Cena getting inserted into the match. This is the first place. If it is Joe Mysterio, who do we got winning this one, Kyle?
I hope Joe gets a match. I want to say that because this would be his first WrestleMania.
They cannot leave him off this card.
Yeah, okay. I mean, as much as I say, it's not about deserve. I hate the word deserve. With Joe, one year was injury, and the other year I just think it was kind of like timing coming back from an injury. This is his first Mania match, so I'd feel terrible for him. I guess you can take it. I mean, it doesn't take any money out of my pocket, but I'd feel bad for Joe. If Ray can't go, I think Kevin Owens is the best option. Believe it or not, I just think Cena, I don't think you want to throw him in there. There's a story to tell with Cena and Joe. They're a long time, they go back to the UPW days. I don't know if they would want to tell that story, but God damn it, I'd love to hear him tell it. So if they do Joe and Ray, I keep coming back to the fact that I think they see Joe as this utility guy. But they're going to do something with this Dominic situation. Right? Mm-hmm. Like they're not having Dominic on TV for him just to hug his dad at the end, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
something's gonna dad.
So I guess I could see Joe losing and then beating up Dominic. And if Ray wins, I would see him possibly being a transition guy to Andrade, who I think Andrade, even, as much as I think the US title is a great spot for Joe, I think Andrade might be better in that role. So this is one of the first of several matches in the mid-card that I'm very conflicted on.
I'm not conflicted at all.
Oh, wow.
There we go.
There are a lot of babyface winners in this Mania. This is the heel win here.
Okay. I think with maybe Ray, let's say Ray can go, but he's not 100%. I think maybe with that injury concern, that's maybe reason to actually not put it on him. So I'm going to pick Joe, but if I'm wrong, I won't be surprised, and I don't necessarily think it would be wrong. I think, I'm going to say this with a couple other matches. Depends on what they have planned.
All right, so Justin, you got Joe. I agree this is a kind of a hard one to pick, so I'm going to lean into the so many baby faces winning theme as well and go with Joe here. But like Kyle said, wouldn't be surprised if they go a different direction. But I think Joe seems the most likely. And also, I think this is a good point in the show to point out. We haven't brought it up yet. Our friends at Wrestle Rumble are returning with the WrestleMania contest, guys. So official partner of the show. If you like listening to these preview shows and us speculating on who's going to win, and you like picking the matches ahead of time yourself, check out WrestleRumble.com. $10 for an entry. You can make all the picks. If we just kind of wrapping up March Madness here coming this weekend too. If you like making the brackets, this is the wrestling version. You pick the matches. Yeah, they have prop bets too, as far as like how long the matches are going to go, what the finishes are going to be. You can win real cash off of this, upwards of hundreds of dollars. Check them out at WrestleRumble.com. It's a lot of fun. I mean, you're already going to have fun watching WrestleMania. You want to make it even more entertaining. You got money on the line. Do it. WrestleRumble.com. Also this week, we will be giving away a free entry into the contest. So check us out on Twitter at Top Rope Nation, where I will reveal all the details on how you can win a free entry into Wrestle Rumble's WrestleMania 35 contest. All right, another title match. Here we go. The women's tag title match. We've got Bayley and Sasha Banks defending in another fatal four-way tag team match against Natalya and WWE Hall of Famer Beth Phoenix, Nia Jax and Tamina Snuka, and the Iconics.
Not WWE Hall of Famer Tamina Snuka, by the way.
No. Kyle's favorite member of the WWE women's roster, Tamina Snuka. All right.
I just keep coming back to that tweet from a few months ago that pushing Tamina is the worst thing Vince McMahon has ever done with a Snuka, and my God, that covers a lot of ground.
That's bad. That's real bad.
I mean, I don't support those kind of tweets. That's terrible.
We'll get no retweets on Top Rope Nation's Twitter account about that.
God, that was funny.
Man,
so
this one is a little hard because I could see them doing a switch here. But when I look at those teams, Bayley and Banks are the best duo to have the titles right now. So I guess I would prefer to keep the titles on them. And I mean, we've always talked about the breakup eventually of these two. They were hinting at it a year ago, and they never really went through with it.
You know what, though? Credit to them, because they're so much better in this role than they would have been, I think, feuding.
I think it's debatable. I mean, I think if they did feud, now they have the women's tag titles to give them a spot on the card. But for months and months, both of them are languishing on the card, and it could have spiced it up a little bit. But for right now, yeah, they're good. They're a good tag team. I think eventually you split them up and you have the slow build towards that. So until that happens, I'm gonna pick them retaining. I think here, Kyle.
Yeah, I think it's what we said at Fastlane. I don't think you know, with your inaugural champions, I don't think you want to beat them quickly. I think you want to establish prestige with the titles. And something you said with when you kind of look around at the challengers, not seeing it, Tamina and Nia, that's not a good choice. Beth and Natty, that's not going to work a full-time schedule, so it's not going to be her winning. And, you know, I figured something out with the Iconics on Thursday or Tuesday, pardon me. Remember, you know, I said this months ago, I couldn't figure out if they're really good or really bad. The Iconics.
Yeah.
It was bugging me. I was like, how? Like, I don't think there's been many or any acts that I've ever kind of struggled like that to like evaluate when I'm watching. Like, is this like really awesome or really bad? The light bulb went off Tuesday. You know what the issue with them is?
The promos are awkward and nobody reacts.
Yes, but let's take it a step further. They don't play well in front of a live crowd. It's not that they're bad promos or a bad shtick. It's a bad shtick to do in front of the live crowd, out, you know, from behind the curtain, because you're right. There are a lot of crickets with their jokes, and that just like whether it's what they're going for or whether that means, you know, anything, it just kind of feels bad. And that's been like the big difference between NXT and WWE. And it's something that not enough people make a big deal about when these acts jump from NXT. WWE is going pre-tape to live. Mm-hmm. That some of these acts struggle with. It's yes, the booking sometimes is kind of wonky, but you know, when you're going from exclusively pre-tape or 99% pre-tape to 99% live, that's a big difference. And I think that's the issue with the Iconics is their shtick and promos don't work in front of the live audience.
So you think if they did the same thing backstage, it'd come off better?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
And Sasha and Bayley retain.
All right.
I actually, this one I feel pretty strongly on.
Justin.
I thoroughly enjoyed the Iconics on Tuesday, and Boston Hug Connection are winning.
So you were making noise, is what you're saying.
Yes, from my couch. I'm like screaming along.
So I'm not saying it was bad. I'm saying that it comes off worse because no one in the live crowd reacts.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
That's fine. I still enjoyed it.
I'm not saying you shouldn't.
Stop trying to tell me how to watch my wrestling.
All right, AJ Orton. This is another one. This is kind of hard to predict.
Mm-hmm.
It should be a good match. This is a sleeper match to be one of the top matches on the card, I think, depending on how long it goes. That's one of our listeners sent in, and I agree with that take. Man, I don't know. I'm going to go throw it to you guys. I'm not quite sure who I'm taking in this one. Justin, let me go to you first.
So this initially was like one of those, like, okay, we have a lot of baby faces that are going to be going over in title matches, so this has got to be Orton's. But then they did the finish on Tuesday, because like that's what I was certain the finish was going to be, was the AJ Styles phenomenal forearm into the RKO.
Mm-hmm.
So now, I mean, now that alone made me think, well, shit, they're going to do Styles now because they gave away the finish. So guess I'm going to go AJ.
That's an interesting take, and I hadn't thought of that, and I agree with that. Yeah, Kyle.
Great take. It's an absolutely great take, because I think the psychology of this match could be really good again if they're given time, because I think they're going to work. What I would do if I was agenting this match is I'd work the whole thing around the RKO, where, because like they made such a big deal, like Orton, well, who cares if you got all these cool moves? I got one, and it always wins. And so it should just be him constantly going for the RKO and AJ trying to maneuver around it. I think that's the way to work this match. As much as a lot of people, perhaps you too, maybe myself, maybe some of our listeners don't want to admit it, is this a match where there's no traditional babyface, traditional heel?
I was thinking about that when I was going through my head how to pick it, because both these guys get cheered. Yeah.
Yeah. Like as much as, again, some people that listen to podcasts, this one or others, don't want to admit it. When Randy Orton went through his spiel, people cheered. His anti-indie spiel, people cheered that. So I think this whole thing where it's like, yeah, man, Mania crowd's a little different than, can't remember where they were on Tuesday, but I don't think this is,
I think.
Yes, I don't think this is a traditional, great wrestling town, Baltimore. This is not a traditional babyface heel match. Do we think in the shakeup AJ maybe needs to go to? I know he's the AJ Styles. It's the house. SmackDown's the house that he built. But does he maybe move to Raw? Do we think that might be an idea for him because he's been on SmackDown a while? And I think with this match, it's kind of about what the future plan. This is a very hard match to call because it's about what they do with them in the future. If it's a one-off, I think AJ does win. If it's not a one-off, I think Orton wins.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't see them carrying this on because I agree AJ, I think, needs to move. And then if you got Seth winning the Universal title, you can do the Rollins Styles feud eventually, which would be awesome. So
it's a fresh match, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll need fresh opponents.
I think I'll go with AJ. I don't see this as a long-term program. I'm gonna go with AJ.
And they had a good match a couple years ago on SmackDown.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'll check that out if I have some time, where they actually, I remember, I think they did the phenomenal form, but he pump faked on it and got Orton to go down, botch the RKO kind of, where he
makes sense here then, since that just happened. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the psychology, I'm looking forward to the psychology of this.
Yeah.
Because I am a nerd.
All right. Shane O'Mac and The Miz. This one is now Falls Count Anywhere as of Tuesday night.
No, it was announced last week.
Are you sure? I thought they announced that Tuesday night. No?
I think in the promo 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Covering SmackDown. I don't even know that, but I almost wrote an article Tuesday night. Good thing I didn't, that was a new stipulation. That's why I was pretty certain it was new. I don't remember hearing that, but all right. So whatever, whenever they announce it, it's a Falls Count Anywhere match, which would lend itself to Shane possibly having a chance to win here. But Shane's not a full-time member of the roster, so I think I'm going to go with The Miz. Kyle?
This is like AJ and Orton for me. Is this going to be a one-off, or is this going to be a multi-match program? It feels like it has more legs. I can't believe I'm saying that, but it feels like it could go on a little longer. I think it's the right move to make it a Falls Count Anywhere because these two probably need some bells and whistles. I don't mean that to be a shot at either guy. I think The Miz is underrated, but The Miz his strength is character work. Shane O'Mac's strength is, doing that one high spot every match. Neither guy's strength is brawling. And so I'm kind of interested to watch this to see, how good of a brawl this is. I think there's going to be a lot of bells and whistles. Miz is another guy. Given that Miz and Mrs. is a USA show and SmackDown's leaving USA, doesn't the Miz have to go to Raw eventually for the synergy?
You would think. Yeah.
So, okay. So, I mean, I don't know if that means anything necessarily for this match, but again, if it's a one-off, Miz wins. If it's not a one-off, Shane's going to win.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense because when they're on Fox, they're probably not going to want to promote a USA Network show. Yeah. So, yeah, I agree. And I think I had heard something about that was going to pose some issues. So, yeah, that makes sense. All right. Justin?
It's tough. It's definitely the way they've built it. It feels like Miz needs to get the win. At the same time, as I've repeated almost every time here, we need some heel wins. And that would be a really good way to, if you're building up this babyface Miz, is to get some sympathy on him by having him lose on the grandest stage. And having said that, I'm going to go with the Miz.
All right. That brings us to Drew McIntyre and Roman Reigns. And Roman Reigns, here's a guy who can't seem to get the victory at WrestleMania. This is interesting because do you have him lose yet again at WrestleMania? Then you have a heel getting a victory here on the babyface heavy show. Or does Reigns get the feel-good moment coming back from leukemia to emerge victorious at WrestleMania? Yes, Justin.
The interesting outcome is having him lose and build a story through that. I just can't imagine them not going with the feel-good moment of Reigns being victorious.
But to Justin and all of our point, there's going to be a lot of feel-good moments on this show. But, it is Roman. And I think, this is kind of something they, and they should feel strongly about. And there's a sense of irony now that, the mania that there's not going to be this backlash against him. He might not get the win. I think either guy going over, there's a strong argument for both. Roman, we know it. It's just been laid out. Feel good moment. Drew,
it makes him.
Yes. And again, when you look at possible contenders down the line for Seth Rollins, presuming Seth wins, maybe he doesn't, Drew McIntyre makes a lot of sense as that, as a top challenger for Seth, whether they do it like right away or build it for a couple months. I think that would make sense. I think it has to do with two things. If you're in the writer, and since we're not in the writer's room, we don't know. How much faith do they have in Drew McIntyre? Do they see him as a top guy? And is Seth Rollins beating Brock Lesnar? If Brock Lesnar's beating Seth Rollins, then there actually really is no reason to have Drew go over here. But if Seth wins that match, he obviously needs challengers, and Drew's a logical one. So again, these were the three. I think we hit the three in a row: AJ Orton, Miz Shane, and Drew Roman, where I'm just like totally vassal. It's like I'm not in the writer's room. I don't know. It depends what they have planned. There isn't a right answer. It's not one of these things where if they don't do it my way, I'm not going to piss and moan like some of these people because they didn't subscribe to my fantasy booking.
Yeah, this is, I think either choice is solid, and yeah, it completely depends on probably the direction of the Universal title match. So, I guess, I think Seth is probably going to go over. Spoiler alert. So if I think Seth is going to go over, McIntyre makes more sense. But then, it just pulls me back. How do they have Reigns lose after everything he's gone through? So I think I'll go with Reigns here. And then I think McIntyre gets a win back at some point.
And it's one of those things where in a different era, we would listen to that scenario. I'm like, like what? All right, he loses the first time, but he gets like, it's 2019. There's a lot of television.
Mm-hmm.
You could have you're right. You could have Drew get the win back sometime.
Yeah. All right. Kurt Angle's final match.
Oh, do I have takes here, baby?
I knew you would. Baron Corbin, the Applebee's manager, across the ring from him. What do you got, Kyle?
Okay. Here's where we expose hypocrisy of the fans again. What they're okay. So much you always hear this narrative, and it's not one that I disagree with, for the record, of old guy should put over the new guy, right? You don't hear that at all for this match because it's Corbin.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying Baron Corbin will win, should win. But if I always say, we talk about this in the show, I wouldn't die on that hill if I was in the writer's room. If I'm in the writer's room, I would bring up the idea of Baron Corbin winning.
I absolutely would.
The nuclear heat that would receive would be tremendous.
You got to balance out these crowd reactions. If you got Seth going over, right? If you got Kofi going over, if you have Becky going over, if those three are in the cards, why not have Baron Corbin win?
Here's the problem with Baron Corbin. I think I was trying to think this morning when preparing for the show, and I'm pretty sure whenever it was 8-9 months ago, we all agreed on this top point. We all said with Corbin, we liked this constable gimmick. When they started doing it, we're like, oh, this is kind of amusing. It's a good spot for him. But I think we all also came to the conclusion, the whole, like you mentioned, the Applebee's manager, how he dresses. It's not a main event heel gimmick. He's an effective heel, but it's not a main event heel gimmick. And I think that's the disconnect with Baron Corbin right now, where the angst is. He's a good heel, especially in this modern age. I mean, if I'm a writer, there are so many vignettes I would love to do with Baron Corbin. Like going to like fans' houses and like breaking their DVDs, like just destroying their wrestling connection. Like, I would just have so much, like how they have, like, there's like, sometimes you'll see it with the wrestlers, some of this angst against a certain portion, against that fan base who thinks they're smart, but they're really not. Mm-hmm. All of that angst I would channel through Baron Corbin's character if I'm a writer. Like all of it. Like, and I think it would work. That, and Kurt stood tall on Raw too. He had Corbin in the ankle lock. Mm-hmm. So let me just flip this question. Is there an argument that Baron Corbin should win this match?
Yeah, of course. He's the one who's going to be around for a while, and he could use that for how long?
Yeah.
Is he going to win?
No. and here's the thing is, Kurt Angle's matches, like, he's just not good in the ring anymore. No. And you can't give this match a lot of time. No. And because you can't give it a lot of time, you're not going to squash Kurt Angle on his farewell match.
That would be pretty dick.
Oh, I would love it. I would absolutely
but by God, has the real Vince McMahon returned to pro wrestling, finally? Has the Vince McMahon who told Bret Hart, don't let the door hit your ass on the way out in Montreal of November 1997, is he back? I don't think he is. You're right. Kurt Angle's probably going to win. And I want to talk about, after Ryan gives his pick, I want to talk about John Cena.
Yeah, I got Kurt Angle too.
Okay. John Cena here actually makes no sense to wrestle Kurt Angle. It's fan fiction. So it's one of those things that we talked about, and somebody on Twitter, when we had Andrew on, like, he pointed this out, how these things gain steam on Twitter. Somebody pointed out, it's like, oh, hey, Cena was Angle's, or Angle was Cena's first match, so wouldn't it be cool if Cena was Angle's last match? And everyone's like, yeah, that'd be sweet. And WWE, to their, to be fair, opened themselves up to some criticism. They're like, who would you like to see Kurt Angle wrestle? Okay. But looking at the dynamic, like, does it make sense for, like, because, Justin is Kurt Angle cannot go long. I mean, he's bad. I mean, let's just face it. I mean, other than Tamina, there isn't a worse worker in the company right now.
Oh, that's harsh.
I'm sorry, man. I love Kurt Angle. Look, man, I saw the tweet you had. He was unbelievable. How quick he picked up pro wrestling, is incredible. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, like I remember watching him in those tags and like the SmackDown 6 era, 02, being like, is Kurt Angle one of the top guys in the world? Like a couple of years in, my God. But like that time has passed. And so, you know, doing this dramatic match with John Cena, I just logistically think would be a nightmare. And, you know, what would John Cena gain by beating Kurt Angle? And like, do you really want to bring John Cena back? You know, because Cena losing has value. Do you want to do that with Kurt Angle out the door? I just think like, I think there's a story there, but I think the logistics of the result and the match itself actually make no sense whatsoever. And it was just something that gained a lot of traction on Twitter. And I don't think it was, you know, I mean, I get, you know, I mean, a lot of people are still talking about, maybe he comes out, but that makes even less sense. Like he comes out, Kurt, you know, is Kurt going to tap Corbin in like 10 seconds? And then John's going to come out, how about we do this one more time? I mean, I guess that works. But again, what do you do with the result? I mean, Cena's kind of a dick if he comes down and beats him then.
Now, I think if it had been built up as Cena Angle, I think Cena would win. I don't think Angle would win that match.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it'd be like Flair going out losing to Shawn Michaels.
I'm sorry, I love you.
Yeah. So, but yeah, with Baron Corbin, I'm sorry, I think Angle's going to win here. But there is an argument, of course, as Justin said, to have Corbin go over. He's the guy that's going to be around week in and week out at this point. But it's Kurt Angle, Hall of Famer. At one point, was arguably one of the top workers in the business. So I'm gonna go with Angle.
So what do we think about John Cena then? Because I think we need to put a bow on that. Do we think he just does something with Elias?
Right now, I would think Elias is the most likely scenario.
Because they did something last year at Mania. Like Elias came out and interrupted him when he was waiting for Undertaker.
Yeah. So it makes sense. There's a logical storyline explanation for it. So and they've been giving Elias a lot of TV time all around New York, building up this segment. And if he just comes out and sings and that's it, that's going to be kind of underwhelming. Like,
I don't think that's going to happen. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, something has to happen.
I mean, for God's sake, bring the Bushwhackers out. You know?
Well, last year the rumor was for a long time it was going to be something with The Rock. He was calling The Rock out. He couldn't get that to work with his schedule. So I think Cena this year, it makes sense. So I'm gonna go with Cena and Elias, and probably then just a really brief match. So Justin, where are you leaning for Cena?
I don't know. Sure, Elias sounds good.
My God, Kyle. The Tottenham Hotspurs on the pitch on Wednesday night based on that answer. I mean, yeah. I know it was a
seriously. Yes.
Love it.
They opened their new stadium today, and I have it on DVR.
Oh my God. You are watching it right now, aren't you? Turn that webcam. Yeah, turn that webcam right now to that television. I want to see it.
They had a big gag job I read over the weekend, didn't they?
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, they've been playing very poorly.
Yeah.
We're about to get our first win, though.
Did you check spoilers?
Yeah, of course.
All right. Triple H Batista, the aforementioned fantastic brief promo by Batista on Monday night. I love that. He got a great reception in his hometown of DC. This is no holds barred. If Triple H loses, he must retire. I always hate that stipulation, guys.
Yeah. Triple H is winning. I mean, yeah. that just killed. I don't know. Whatever.
At that point, you know Triple H is winning.
Which seemed pretty obvious anyway. Again, isn't there? I know. Again, this is logistic. Like, I think Batista has just signed. Like, unless if there's some secret stuff going on that hasn't been reported, he's only signed through the show, so it would make no sense to have him win. God, there'd be an argument. What if like it had been turned out he was secretly backed by Vince or something like that? To like, Vince was mad at Hunter or something, like the way he was doing things, but. Look, ultimately, my problem with this match, I think I stated it 2 weeks ago on the show. Hunter as a babyface winning a Hunter-style match is just not that appealing. And this is a match that, card placement or match placement, I should say, on the card is going to be huge on this show. They got to spread the. I'm interested to see where this goes. I think this match, if it's late in the card, I think it could get hurt. I think it might suffer. And Triple H, think I brought it up last week. I don't know if he's had a good match at Mania as a babyface.
Yeah,
before.
Yeah, we talked about that last week. I mean, as a fan, that's why I hate the stipulation. I'd like to think that there's a possibility of Batista winning. Honestly, for a long time, I think I've said it on this show, Batista was one of those guys that I wanted to see come back more than anything. Of all the past guys, like this was the guy I wanted to see return.
And it feels like he's got more legs. Like if this is it,
yeah,
I kind of like, darn it, like damn it, I wanted to see more of Batista. The stipulation that I'm with you guys. They did it a few years, last time in East Rutherford against Lesnar. I didn't like it then, really. And the thing that makes it not work, he's a part-time guy. And he's like so high up, like it just is sort of like, it's kind of hollow. Like, it's like Triple H, it's like, he's just a guy who should like wrestle once or twice a year when he damn well pleases anyway. So it's not like what's he like, oh my God, we're, that one match a year we're not going to get.
Yeah. No, yeah. It's when you don't have a guy working every week that might have to retire, it definitely loses some of the steam.
What would be the more fun surprise, Corbin winning or Batista?
Batista.
Yeah, ending a career.
Yeah.
That wasn't already announced.
Yeah, for sure. You agree, Kyle?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. All right, so I'll go with Triple H, but I want to see more of Batista. And Batista wanted to work the house show circuit. He talked a lot about that the last several years, that he loves working the house shows, and I'd like to see that happen.
That's what makes me think, like, is this really it? Like, it just doesn't seem right.
No, he was saying that years ago, like, and he's since then he's saying he just wants that one last match, and he just really wanted it to be Triple H. Yeah, like he didn't really want to come back and work anybody else. Or put, some other guy over.
Yeah. But he loves working house shows. He said it over and over again that's where he has the most fun. So yeah, he wants the Triple H match, but I'd like to see him wrestle some more. So I don't know. I hope they can work it out, but we'll see. All right. So this brings us to like the top 3 matches on the card now, and we've already kind of talked about who we think is going to win every single one of them. But
I feel like we went through this card in 5 minutes. I mean,
we're almost at an hour and a half on this broadcast. We haven't even touched on NXT. So, yeah.
Or Joey Ryan's penis. By the way, look, man, I don't mean to be a dick. Anyone who signs up for that should be put on a list. And I ain't talking about the list of Jericho either. Okay.
Wait, signs up for what?
You haven't heard about this Joey Ryan thing?
The penis party thing or whatever it is that he's doing?
The meet and greet. Touch it.
Oh my God. Yes. You're saying you wouldn't do that, Kyle Ross.
There's a lot of things I'd do at Mania weekend. That's touching another man's dong as Joey Ryan or otherwise is pretty low.
Ryan, remember when you asked me if I wanted to go to WrestleMania weekend? You need to re-ask me now.
Oh yeah, a lot of dick references on this broadcast in the last couple minutes.
Let's touch some dick.
I did see Joey Ryan's making an appearance in Des Moines, Iowa, in a little over a month, Justin. So if you want your chance at that, make your way down Interstate 35. No comments.
Yeah, I'm there.
If you do it under a bridge, you might get in a lot of trouble.
All right, Brian Kofi. I feel like you got to do the title switch here after the way this has been built up, even if it's short term and he doesn't have it very long. This is Kofi's moment. Kofi Kingston, my pick. Kyle.
Yes, and I agree. Now, I think there seems to be this prevailing wisdom. Do it. It'll be a short run. But don't cut your nose off to spite your face. Let the damn thing go as long as it can. And when you start to see, okay, it's winding down, then you can change it back. But, Kofi Kingston needs to win here. Absolutely needs to win. Even something like New Day turning on Kofi and costing him, or a jealous KO or Ali. Yeah, it would draw a lot of heat, but it might be the wrong heat in this situation. I think Kofi needs to go over. By the way, something not talked about, Daniel Bryan's probably not working Saudi Arabia, right? Which is the next major show. So you probably need to take the title off him anyway.
Yeah. All right, J-Man.
Yeah, no matter where you put this on the show, this could really turn off the crowd if for some reason you had Daniel Bryan win. I think I'd made
what a statement that is.
Look how far we've come.
I
in a
know,
year,
right?
yeah.
I think I commented a couple weeks ago that like for this one you could do like Daniel Bryan winning, then on SmackDown you have Kofi get the win. I now lean more towards that being a possibility for, I'm sure, the next match we're going to talk about, which is Rollins and Lesnar. Is you know, when was the last time Lesnar won on or even wrestled on Raw? You know, to maybe get that heel win on this card, you have it be Lesnar, then you let Rollins get the win on Raw. Having said that, I'm going Kofi and I'm going Rollins.
Yeah, we broke down that Rollins Lesnar match on last week's show quite a bit, where it's a situation where you just want to see Brock Lesnar just get away from this title already. And you know, I wouldn't be shocked if Lesnar retains again, just because the build to this match has been so underwhelming. And longtime listeners of the show know I love Seth Rollins, but man, the excitement is not there. I think to pick Seth is just finally get the Universal title.
I think he's cut a couple underrated promos the last.
And I think the crowd's behind him. The thing that worries me is the fact that he was standing tall on the go home to Raw.
Yep. And a lot of people on Twitter said, "Oh fuck, Brock's winning." Are we all in agreement? So, Justin, the question you posed, that famous question about a month or so ago, are all three of these baby faces going over? Is Seth the one that we all feel is least likely? If there's one that doesn't go over, is it Seth?
Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
Yes.
It's Brock, because of Brock, right? Because of the opponent.
Yeah. But the build of this match of those three has by far been number 3, right?
Yes.
Would you all agree?
Yes, absolutely. And, you know, something we didn't mention last week, I read the Observer and Dave made it a point that I should have thought of. Seth's been kind of banged up, so he hasn't even really been able to work a lot too. So like, Brock, his persona non grata, storyline. So there just hasn't been a lot, sink your teeth into with these guys. I mean, they've done the video packages, which I think have been okay. And Seth's cut a couple good babyface promos, but hasn't been there. God, I think Seth should win though. Just, there's an irony with Brock. I think one of the WWE's biggest issues, and if I was a wrestler and heard this, I would want to kick my ass. But wrestlers are not booked anymore like they have a shelf life. And Brock Lesnar is exhibit A, B, C, D, E, and F of that. When I referenced the Triple H Brock match last time they were in East Rutherford. That was like so shitty at the time that like Brock lost for a second time in 3 matches. I'm like, what are they doing? They bring this guy back and they have him lose twice in his first 3 matches because he lost the first one to Cena. He beats Triple H at SummerSlam, then he loses Triple H. And like now we've gotten to a point all these years later where he's like unstoppable, but like no one cares as much anymore. It's like, why was he not unstoppable out the gate? Now it's just like, get rid of this guy already.
Mm-hmm.
Match. What do we think about the match quality?
Oh, I think it could be excellent.
Do we think it'll be better than Bryan versus Kofi?
No.
It all depends on time. No, probably.
Yeah, I agree. I think Bryan Kofi is like, people who like don't think that's gonna be a match of the year contender, I think, or has a chance to, I think are crazy.
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, I mean, if you give if Brock Lesnar's invested like he kind of has been with Bryan and Finn, I think you could get a hell of a match out of him, especially with Seth Rollins. If
that's
you give
true.
him some time.
Yeah, I mean, Brock versus the Athletic, or throw AJ into 2 years ago at Survivor Series. Those matches have all been good. And, Seth is, I don't think people pay enough attention. Seth's bigger than all those guys.
I saw the nude pictures.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, my God. How many scotches have you had, Justin?
God, I wish I had. By the way, on that note, I wish I had another Jameson highball. I drank that in the first 10 minutes of the show, and I've been like crying that I don't have any more. But I think that's something to watch too. Like, it's not going to be. I mean, Brock will still do the suplex shitty shit, but it's not. The size difference will be not quite as pronounced here because Seth's a bigger guy than Finn, Daniel, or AJ.
But Seth is, he can flip just as much.
Oh, yeah.
To those guys.
I mean, sure. I think it will be worked in a similar style for sure.
All right. Yeah. I mean, it should be a pretty good match, but I would take Kofi. Bryan should be a better one. All right. So the women's match, the final match, I think it's hard to pick against Becky Lynch here. So I'm going to go with Becky Lynch. Guys.
Yeah, same. I think the bigger question is, who does she beat? I think she beats Charlotte. I don't think Ronda's going to be gone for good, and they can just save that up for maybe, Mania next year. Is that Ronda says, you never beat me. And then you get that one-on-one match that everybody is all crying about now. So I think Becky beats Charlotte for the titles.
Yeah, I agree with that 110%, maybe even 172%, quite frankly. This match is going to be very good.
Yeah, there's no way they will not let this fail. They're gonna treat it like the match last year. Well, women are main eventing WrestleMania for the first time ever. They are going to have this thing completely mapped out, and the only thing that could go wrong with it is, a mental fart or a physical lapse during the match. But this thing is going to be booked to the gills. Okay,
if you look at Ronda's matches, which I've enjoyed for the most part, Becky's Charlotte matches like the Last Woman Standing, the TLC match they had with Asuka, there's been a certain level of violence in those matches that is generally missing from modern wrestling. There is going to be a lot, I believe, of creative license in this match. What I mean, I think they're going to let them do a lot of things that you don't normally see in WWE matches.
Blood, lots of blood.
I don't think we're going to see that. That would be problematic, I think, with some of the sponsors. But I know for a fact sponsors think blading is like the most insane thing they've ever heard. Like if you talk to like corporate people, like, oh yeah, by the way, we like, some of the guys, they slice their forehead to bleed. They're like, what? Like people, these meetings look at these people like, what in the fuck are you people doing? I think it's going to be an insane brawl, especially coming off that go home.
Mm-hmm.
And people be like, oh, they're letting them do, some of these, tools, something like maybe you hear on like Barstool Sports or something. They're letting the women do all this stuff. But, there's a pretty famous match in WrestleMania history, Bret Hart and Steve Austin, where they took a creative license, didn't they? And that sure helped that match.
They sure did. Yeah.
So I don't want, and my buddy Chad, he's like, he told me to listen to Something to Wrestle that Pritchard did for WrestleMania 13. According to Bruce, did you guys know this? They did not green light that blade job beforehand.
I'd heard that long before the Something to Wrestle with.
That was news to me. So he's like, well, they did that on their own. Well, it doesn't make it different. If anything, it makes WWE smarter today if they're preparing for the creative license to make it more important. Mm-hmm. To me, it's like insane that they wouldn't want it.
It might have been in Brett's book. I'm not sure. I haven't read it in about 11 years, but
I'm pretty sure I remember it from Stone Cold did a podcast where he commentated over the match, and I'm pretty sure he mentioned it on that.
And bladed him too, because Austin at that time
wasn't comfortable with it.
Yeah, he didn't blade a lot because WCW, they didn't blade at all when he was there. Mm-hmm. And and he had never been in a key position to blade in WWF. So that's just so I think this is going to be an insane brawl that is going to be very good. I think either this or Bryan Kingston is the match of the night. Ryan, you completely hit the nail on the head. Becky's winning.
Yes.
And beating Charlotte.
So you'll get your WrestleMania moment to close out the show. Becky Lynch holding both titles, fireworks going off around MetLife Stadium. That seems the likely scenario.
Okay. It's winner take all, but they're not using the term unified. Now, that could be because Vince McMahon woke up on Monday and decided he didn't like the term unified. Or it could mean they're going to do something where Becky's not going to be a double champion down the line. What do we think about that? Becky or whomever wins the future of the title. Is it going to, it would be weird if she dropped one of them.
It would. And we've all been pretty vocal. I think all of us are on the same page that we would prefer They have one world champion, men's and women's, on
Yes.
both shows. So I would prefer them to do the classic unifying of the titles. But I think with the brand split, with SmackDown going to Fox, they're probably going to split them up again at some point. This is just kind of a short-term thing. Justin?
It's so easy to figure this out. It's hey, first pay-per-view after WrestleMania, she has to defend both of them in different matches, and that's how she ends up losing one.
Oh.
If she's gonna have both of them, she has to defend both of them, but not at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Now who would order that? That Crown Prince motherfucker?
Yes. Love it. That's the line of the show right there. By the way, I didn't find this in time when we were talking about
the match. Don't shoot me.
Jesus. I didn't find this in time when we were talking about the match, but when we were talking about Brock Seth, I was frantically searching on my iPad to try to find when the last time Brock wrestled on TV was, since Justin had pointed out maybe this is a scenario where he drops on Raw later on. The last time Brock Lesnar wrestled on WWE television outside of a pay-per-view, March 2nd, 2004, Brock Lesnar defeats Hardcore Holly on WWE SmackDown in Savannah, Georgia, according to CageMatch.net.
Yeah.
2004. So,
wrapping up that pro. Remember that they did a title match at the Rumble that year.
That's insane, though. 15 years ago. There you go.
They teased one with Rollins. Remember the night after Mania 31 when Seth did the cash in.
Mm-hmm.
They teased it and like they did some. Didn't like Brock kick Michael Cole's ass or something like that, and then they suspended him off TV.
Oh yeah.
I'm a little disappointed they haven't talked about Mania 31 and the finish at all in the build for this. I think there's a story to be told and they could spin it where Seth's like, hey man, I beat this guy once. I'm going to beat him again. I didn't like the way I beat him the first time. I'm a different guy now. And I want to beat him straight up man to man. I'm a little surprised they never did that.
But he didn't beat Brock. He beat Roman Reigns.
That's a good point. He didn't pin him. That's a very good take. Watch the product, Kyle.
All right. So, man, this has been a hell of a broadcast, guys. We're getting close to 2 hours. So we definitely don't have time to break down all of NXT. But any final thoughts on WrestleMania, and then we'll just kind of give the highlights for NXT and match of the night kind of thing. That's that.
Yeah, I think we've covered it.
Covered it.
Yeah.
It's been pretty intense. So, match of the night. Let's just do this. What do you think is gonna be the match of the night? I'm sure next week we'll talk about on episode 92 what we thought of TakeOver. We'll probably talk about it Sunday night. I'm pretty sure. At least I haven't got a confirmation from Justin, but I know me and Kyle had kind of agreed last week. We're gonna do a pay-per-view post show live after WrestleMania. Going to be a long night, but it's worth it. It's the biggest wrestling night of the year. So, guys, subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/Top Rope Nation. You can join us live. Now, like I said earlier in the broadcast, we're live every week on Patreon, but this one will be open to the world. We will be streaming on YouTube for everyone live immediately following WrestleMania, youtube.com/Top Rope Nation. I'm sure we'll talk about TakeOver that night too.
We'll be open to the universe.
Open to the universe. That's right. But as far as match of the night for NXT, which talked about this a couple weeks ago, I mean, it has the potential to be one of the best, if not the best takeovers of all time. We'll see if it delivers or not. New Orleans last year would probably have something to say about that. I'm going to go with the Riddle Dream match to echo our boy Derek Chappelle earlier in the broadcast. I think this is the match where Matt Riddle opens a lot of eyes for the WWE universe. We all know he's great, but I don't think he's had that match where the WWE fans have understood why this guy is such a great professional wrestler. So I think Riddle Dream for me is going to be the match of the night. Kyle?
It certainly could. I wouldn't be surprised. I think the other one would be Pete Dunne and Walter.
Yeah, that should also.
It's going to be one of those two. I mean, I think both of those, have very, very high expectations. I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago. Some of the reports coming out of the Florida Loop said Dream and Riddle were working very well together, and that we should have high expectations for that. So
yeah, definitely. I think it'll be Cole and Gargano. Two out of three falls, two great workers. Gargano doesn't disappoint, and big take. What is it? What is he, Mr. Takeover or something like that? Johnny Takeover. Yeah.
Should he
fuck
win
off?
the title?
It's got to be one of those two matches.
Yeah. Does Gargano win the title here? Because isn't there an argument that him winning the title, with Ciampa being hurt, doesn't it kind of ring a little hollow? That story of Gargano, my God, Johnny Gargano, the 12-year-old boy, it's finally happened. And what would you do with Undisputed here? Like, they were teasing me even before the Ciampa injury. This is going to be our year. We're going to hold all the titles. I think Adam Cole, baby, wins it. And I think you do a scenario where, like, they constantly have Johnny outnumbered, put Johnny in that back in the traditional babyface role, which he should have been in the whole fucking time in 2018. And I don't know. It depends with this Ciampa injury. I mean, Ciampa returning by Johnny's side to oppose Undisputed Era, to me, is the storyline that they should have done in 2018. And I think it's the one that they should look to do moving forward. But that's just me.
Well, we shall see.
Well, who's your pick for that match?
Yeah, I think if Gargano wins it, they can work that into a story with Ciampa whenever he returns. That he won the belt, but he never really lost it, and they rekindle all that.
The question with that though is, like, is Ciampa even going to return?
Yeah, it could be a long time.
Yeah, so. That is. I mean, you're right. You really cannot be making. I don't think Tommaso Ciampa can be in storylines right now, given everything.
And then with that said, that I don't think that should take away from not, that shouldn't make you not put the belt on Johnny here.
Okay.
Man, it's a tough pick. Gargano's been there for so long though that I feel like I'm leaning towards him.
Yeah, especially now, like, 'cause the big part of, I think, him going to the main roster was to be with Ciampa, so why not have him win the belt and stay in NXT for a while?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll go with Gargano.
Still love my idea of Gargano winning and Vince McMahon coming down at the end of the show saying, "I'm disappointed in you, Hunter. Plans change." And Dave Bautista comes out and just power bombs Gargano. I would be. I mean, I'll just start like doing that thing where like people just start typing consonants. Like on Twitter, like as a tweet, like that'll just be my entire Twitter feed. Will just be me typing all consonants if that would happen.
All right, guys. Well, it's going to be a hell of a weekend. You got TakeOver on Friday night. We haven't had time to talk about it, but the New Japan ROH show at the Guard, which obviously that's historic.
That is a freaking sweet card.
It is the first time a non-WWE wrestling company has ran, or non-McMahon company has run the Garden since 1960. So, god damn, we're talking almost 60 years.
Freaking Jay White is the champion of the card, oh boy.
And Justin Joint will be watching that show live with me right here at my place. Looking forward to it.
Oh yeah, going to be Ubering home.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow, here we go.
Going to be drinking the scotch that night. Kyle, you want to fly to Iowa? The invite is open.
Unfortunately, I'm not even going to be watching it live because
what are you going to be doing?
Final Four's on, man.
Yeah,
I know that there's no Missouri Valley Conference representation, but by God, we have a job to do. And by the way, please send me a text Sunday morning, Ryan, saying, "Hey, fucker, make sure you write up the championship game," because that would be like if it's Sunday night and I've forgotten to do that.
Oh man,
then there will be trouble. So,
all right, I'll make the draft tonight so I don't forget.
Yes, but please be sure Sunday, and I don't care how early it is either. Like just text me, like, "Fucker, write up the championship game before WrestleMania."
4:30 a.m. But guys, I mean, we'll have thoughts on that next week. We'll probably again talk Sunday night. We'll be doing two shows next week because we got the Sunday night post WrestleMania show, and then our usual Thursday show, Thursday or Friday. Yeah. So
we talk about that, that Raw after Mania with that great crowd.
Yeah, there'll be. Hopefully, they don't completely hijack the show, but there'll be plenty to talk about next week.
Circle jerkers.
So yeah, check it all out, guys. This is going to be a great weekend for wrestling fans. I'm looking forward to it. Hope you guys are too. Appreciate you joining us as we broke down the WrestleMania card, but definitely check out G1 Supercard, TakeOver, Enjoy WrestleMania weekend.
And go to
Join us on Twitter.
AIW if you're there. If you're there in New York, go to AIW. Support Cleveland, Ohio.
There you go.
It's a late night show. It's late night on Thursday, 11:59 in Jersey City. Yeah. I cannot imagine how late that Janela show is going to go, by the way, this year, because they're waiting for everyone to get there from the ROH show, from MSG, and they're working. Yeah, I think they're working Jersey City, the Janela show. So
4 a.m. I go long time.
I'm trying to remember when me and Chad got home last year, that Janela show, because we were like dead by the end because they ran out of beer.
I remember the picture of you with like 4 beers in your hand. Who were you with in that picture? Was that Doink the Clown?
It was Alabama Doink, God rest his soul.
Yeah.
One of his, no, buddy of mine, Ted. Yeah, we were just, we had we actually contributed very largely to them running out of beer. I mean, they let you, I've never seen a place in 2019 that lets you buy more than 2 beers per person. But we were just going up and just being like, give us 10.
Joey Janela allows it. There you go.
God bless him.
All right. At Top Rope Nation on Twitter. Join us for the discussion this weekend as everything's going down in the New York City area. We'll be back with you live Sunday night. Everyone can tune in live. Join us on YouTube. We'd love to have you in the live chat. Let us know immediately after WrestleMania what you thought of the show. YouTube.com/Top Rope Nation. Subscribe. Hit the alert button so you know when we go live on Sunday night and join us. And we will talk to you then. Justin, looking forward to seeing you this weekend. Kyle,
go Baron Corbin.
All right, guys, enjoy it. We'll talk to you Sunday night.